its kickoff of its new channel partnership with the Center for Creative Leadership. CCL is a top-ranked global leader in leadership development with a reputation for highly researched and well-tested programs launched in around 160 countries around the world. In the next 1.5 hours, 361 Degrees and CCL will share insights and information about this exciting new partnership and leadership program. You will also have the opportunity to speed network at the end with your peers in this call at the end of the meeting. Can we kindly ask the audience to have their videos switched on to make it more interactive? And also because we would love to see you in person. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to send it via the chat box below. You will also have the opportunity to raise your hand and ask the questions during the Q&A session at the end. So with that, I would like to now introduce our first speaker, Mr. Ruki de Silva, who is the founder and CEO of 361 Degrees. Ruki, in his heart, calls himself a business growth and transformation designer. He designs and delivers innovation, growth, speed, organizational agility, and leadership solutions. He's an expert on business transformation, culture change, entrepreneurship development, leadership coaching, and capacity building. Ruki is one of the rare Sri Lankans in the global 2% to successfully create and scale up an industry-leading training brand. Academically, he has an MSc in business psychology from the Heriot-Watt University in UK. He's a certified international trainer of JCI USA. He's the only certified enterprise agile specialist from a non-IT background in Sri Lanka. As the leader and growth and transformation designer at 361 Degrees, Ruki drives the entire business strategy and facilitates training interventions for organizations. Over to you, Ruki.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very, very much for joining with us today. I'm absolutely excited for a couple of reasons. I remember a long time ago, I believe somewhere in one of the airports, I managed to pick up this book. It says, Becoming a Strategic Leader by Center for Creative Leadership. I remember just going through the book, was telling, wow, fantastic. I want to buy this book, and I bought it. And since then, this particular book had been one of the cornerstones of my knowledge when it comes to strategic leadership. I went on to understanding what CCL is about, and in the same time, I saw some of the participants that I consulted and trained from a MACE or Brandix type of organization. They were going through CCL programs, and I was so excited to see what they were going through. And I was telling myself, one day, I want to be part of that journey. But I did not know. But all of a sudden, somewhere 2 months ago, we managed to start a discussion with CCL, and here we are. We're launching our journey, or an impactful journey with CCL. Why we say impactful is simply because that 361 and our purpose is to create the impact and passion. Because that with everybody that we meet, everybody that we interact, everybody that come across 361 path, they should be able to feel our passion and our capacity and our effort to make an impact. So if we don't do this every day with each and every person that we meet, our journey is not fulfilled. But with CCL, that journey is getting amplified, because that we are at a level where things are not normal anymore. We spoke, I think it was David that I was talking to a few days ago, and remember, David, you're saying, okay, the COVID is not a new normal anymore, because the COVID is just almost 1.5 years old. You're talking about a post-COVID situation, but which is somewhat elusive. It's all about a battle between the virus and the vaccine makers. It's a matter of time to see who's going to win. But things are changing. The world has adapted. The world has experimented absolutely hell of a lot. We have never seen this level of experimentation in the humankind. With this situation, corporate leaders, all what they got to do is to reevaluate their journey as a leader with the teams that they lead, with the organizations that they give stewardship, with the society that they want to connect. They need to really, really evaluate and see, look, do I think whether all the trainings that we had, all the exposures that we had, can I rely on those to make a difference in the next normal that we want to do? But unfortunately, we will not be having very many answers in those past experiences. Some of the MBAs and MSCs that we have gone through, it's absolutely a new game that is emerging. We don't know what it would be. So we need new operating models, new mental models, novel skills that we need to thrive in this next normal. If we don't have that, if we do not embrace, then we have an issue. So in this journey, 361 degrees, we have been in this journey for the last 20 years. And then we have been a training company. And now we are in a transition from a training company to a business performance design agency, because that we have separated some of the other trainings into some other entities. We have brought our Outward Bound as Wild Rift. We are creating a brand new team to lead that business. So 361 is in the process of creating a new team to go on a journey that will focus on 5 areas. We want to help organizations in business transformation. We have been known for being one of the powerhouses when it comes to change management. Yes, we want to be in that space. And of course, with CCL in forefront, we want to be in the leadership space. And of course, within the last 3 years that we have seen a journey within us where innovation and then helping organizations to innovate at a pace that what they have not done before is one of our core areas. Because we are fascinated about the design thinking to design sprints, all that. Because that the former types of models of what we have been doing may not be not good enough in a market where there is a lot of novelty. So we need new ways to innovate, new ways, not only about the product, not only about the other marketing or the services or the processes. We got to reimagine our customer experience. We got to reimagine our business models. We got to reimagine agility. Agility, right at the moment, is a buzzword. Everybody wants to say, okay, look, we want to be agile. Yeah, we want to be agile, but again, there are a lot of things that we need to do to unlearn and reimagine and reinvent if we want to be agile. We can't be innovative and agile organization with the old structures, old thinking that we have embraced so far. We need new thinking. We need new mental models. We need new tools. We need newer perspectives. That's how we will be able to navigate this journey and then help the organizations to thrive when it comes to the future. But it again, particularly, we need to ask. It's not about just leading anymore. It's not about doing things anymore. particularly from a leadership perspective. How can we nurture future fit leaders? How can we nurture future fit youngsters? How can we nurture everybody in the corporate sector to be future fit? Future fit means they understand what has to be done now. They can sense what's coming onto the plate. They can sense where they can look at the environment, they can look at the ecosystems, they can pick up the weaker signals than the others. That's critical, so that they pick up, and then in the same time they have the capacity, they have the bold leadership to come up and say, okay, look, this is how we are going to play this new game. They will have the capacity to transform. They have the capacity to make all the changes. They have the capacity to learn and experiment than the rest of the industry. That's what we need to achieve. That's what we need to look forward for. So, with CCL, our purpose, if we ask what is the purpose of CCL in our journey, is about all the great research that CCL can bring on board. All the know-how and the well-structured, world-class programs that they can bring in. The knowledge that they have acquired by interacting with the people, with the corporate executives at different levels in 160 countries. So with this gamut of knowledge, experience, know-how, and new ways to look at leadership about what we are doing today and what we're going to do tomorrow, I'm absolutely confident that we, 361, can help the organizations to create future fit leaders. The future fit leadership is key. We need to ensure that all the current C-suite leaders, middle managers, junior managers, and all the people at the self-leading level are future fit. So that's why we want to marry our resources, our capability, our knowledge with the vast amount of knowledge that the CCL can bring us. So that's where we said this is an impactful journey. So it's a beginning of an impactful journey. We want to make sure that each and every person that we come across is impacted with the vast capability that CCL can bring us. So I'm absolutely excited. I'm excited. This is not just an event, but this is the beginning of a long journey that we want to walk along with CCL, because we need world-class, future-fit leaders in this country, in this region, and in this society. For that, as 361, our team, we are absolutely committed to go that extra mile to do that. So thank you very much, everybody, for taking time and joining us. Thank you. Over to you, Dulvain.
Thank you, Ruki. Thank you for taking us through that exciting vision and enlightening us with what's in store with CCL. What an opportunity for Sri Lanka. With that, I would like to introduce to you our next speaker from CCL. Please welcome Diana Khaitova. She's the Regional Sales Director at Center for Creative Leadership in Singapore. Diana is a seasoned leadership and human capital consultant with over 20 years experience across large global organizations. She leads the CCL client development team in Asia Pacific, promoting the CCL mission across the region. Prior to CCL, Diana served as the Regional Client Development Director, Asia at Comferry International. Having lived and worked in multiple Asian countries, Diana has a deep appreciation for the richness and complexity of the region and is passionate about developing future global Asian leaders. Diana, over to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to join this session today. Thank you so much, Ruki and Team 361, for inviting me and for partnering with CCL. I was invited to introduce CCL to the group, but I would like to echo what Ruki just mentioned. The leaders of today are facing unprecedented challenges. They have to resolve issues that there's nowhere to go to learn about how to do that, right? And they need to make decisions really fast. And at the same time, they need to take care of their teams, of their employees, of the communities around them. And CCL, I strongly believe, is very well positioned to support all of these leaders in becoming more human-centric and more impactful leaders of the future. So if we go to the next slide, please, I just want to tell you a little bit about CCL and what we do. For the last 50 years, everybody in CCL has truly been living the mission that you see here in front of you. CCL is a very unique organization. We are a non-for-profit organization headquartered in North America. So the key driver, the major driver that gives us all energy is really supporting leaders across all levels, all countries around the world, is making more impact, better impact on themselves, their teams, and communities around them. In CCL, we believe that leaders have the power to evolve, to learn, to improve themselves, and turn the challenges that they've experienced into opportunities. We have a very wide, worldwide coverage. We have colleagues, facilitators, experienced coaches that are based all around the world. And that allows us to make impact on both large multinational organizations where we would deliver programs in all the regions, as well as countries in Asia where we have our headquarters based in Singapore. Before pandemic started, we would travel almost every week. Somebody from CCL Singapore will fly to Sri Lanka, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand to deliver programs in those countries. In CCL, we focus on creating transformational leadership development experiences. And we achieve that by combining human-centric design and experiences with very robust research and insights that helps leaders to go through deep reflection, rethink their role as a leader, their role as a steward of organizational culture, their role as somebody who is there to develop and nurture their teams. Leadership is all we do. We only focus in constantly researching new and better ways of developing leaders and then translating that research and insight in impactful leadership programs. Nowadays, there are a lot of new capabilities or new topics or themes that we need to bring into our programs. But a lot of the so-called old capabilities, old leadership competences are still needed. So we should not forget about them. We try to ignite new energy and passion in the leaders that go through our programs around topics like strategic leadership, building resiliency in yourself and your organization. In the last 2 years, that has been a very relevant topic for many companies. We do a lot of work on helping organizations go through cultural transformation and align their culture to business strategy. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that CCL has been doing for the past 30 years. And I'm very glad to see that in India, these conversations are happening more often. We do a lot of work with the most senior leaders, the boards, the C-suite, and the direct reports of the CEO, where we help them to develop capabilities that will allow them to envision the future, manage complexity better, and then ignite the passion and energy of the whole organization around that new future strategy. Another area where we have done a lot of work is the topic of global Asian leader. I myself, as was mentioned, I spent more than 20 years in Asia, more than half of my life. I spent many years in China, working and living there the past 4 years in Singapore. And I have met so many brilliant, very capable, very hardworking leaders who really can compete with many Western leaders who work for multinational companies. And it's disheartening sometimes to see that even in large multinational organizations, the representation of Asian leaders at the C-suite level is still very low. So in CCL, we have our research team based here in the region. We do a lot of work, a lot of research around how to support Asian leaders to shine at the global stage. And we've been privileged to work with organizations in Sri Lanka for more than 7 years now. And I think everything that I just said about global Asian leaders certainly applies to many, many very fantastic leaders in Sri Lanka. So I would like to just finish my opening by saying that we are very thrilled to have partnered with Ruki and his team. Unfortunately, the pandemic made it very difficult for us to be present in your beautiful country, and we're looking forward for borders reopening again. And our inspiration behind this partnership is to be closer to the leaders in Sri Lanka and to be able to drive a bigger impact and see them develop and thrive. And I'm sure that the experience and energy that he and his team bring will allow us to realize that vision. Thank you so much for joining the event today. Enjoy the session and looking forward to collaborating with all of you in the future.
Thank you very much, Diana, for introducing CCL and explaining how this program will immensely benefit Sri Lanka's future leadership. With that, I would like to now hand over the session back to Ruki for your presentation.
Hi, give me a minute. Right, got it. Okay, you know, CCL, the operational model had been directly working with the end customers in every market so far, but due to pandemic, they decided to change their operational model. So they managed to change the operational model. So that's where they decided to recruit the partners like us. So now we have the capacity to reach out to you on behalf of CCL. So within this reaching out, yes, we will be bringing the products to you, explaining and doing the marketing. And then some of the products some of the solutions and the interventions that we will be delivering with the local trainers who would be certified by CCL. So it's the same content, same program, same CCL experience, but with a local expert, so that we can bring, as Diana said, that we can bring CCL very close to you. So when it comes to CCL products, they have a couple of assessments, different assessments based on, they have a super competency framework. According to the competency framework for the managers and the executives, we can run an assessment with a 360 feedback. They have a tool for that, fascinating reports, very insightful. What are the things that you got to do? What are the options? And what are the things that can become one of your career blockers and all that? And also they have a super cool assessment when it comes to learning agility. I have not seen a learning agility in the market. And then for the senior leaders, because that particularly the senior leaders, they need to have the capacity to take it and play it at the next level. So there are two standard programs which could be customized: how to lead for organizational impact, and then how can we deliver strategic experience. These two programs are right at the moment being delivered by CCL experts. And then, okay, something has gone wrong in the process. There are two more programs which are key for all the training managers, training executives, all the corporate managers, corporate executives. Which is called leadership, better conversations every day. And then we will be having 11 modules that we could complement your leadership framework when it comes to more of a one-day program. So when it comes to some of these modules, we have the CCL program, and then we plan to deliver more blended training options than just a training program coming from CCL, so that we want to make sure that you will have the CCL expertise, the same CCL program, and then we want to ensure that you all will go through a much larger, rather than a classroom, a blended training program, and then ultimately going into delivering learning in action. So we have 13 modules that we could deliver locally, and then we have 2 programs that we want to offer to the senior management. Plus there are a couple of e-learning only modules that we can offer. So that my invitation to you is that if you're keen about this particular program, set of programs, drop an email or give me a call. Let's set up a time, and then we can go through this. And in case if you need more help from a CCL expert, particularly, we can bring in and then help you to shape up your learning intervention, because that we need to deliver future fit training executives. Thank you very much. And that's all about the CCL product suite that we can offer to you. You will get all these details as an email, and then let me hand over the podium to Dulmi, and then we can get on with the program. Over to you, Dulmi.
Thank you, Ruki. Well, Guru Peter Drucker said that strategy is a commodity and execution is art. So we are privileged to have 2 great organizations joining hands together, not only to launch a great leadership program, but also have 2 great companies possessing great expertise to execute this. So with that, I would now like to introduce our keynote speaker. Let me introduce the keynote speaker, Mr. David Lim. David is the Leadership Solutions Director at CCL, Asia Pacific Campus. He is involved in understanding client leadership and organization needs, designing and delivering customized CCL leadership interventions for middle and senior levels of variety of businesses and government sectors across APAC. Specifically, he has been the lead faculty for a number of C-suite leadership programs. He has also personally conducted over 25 programs in Sri Lanka itself. Academically, David has a Master's of Arts degree in psychology from the University of British Columbia, Canada, and an honors degree in psychology from the University of Waterloo, Canada. He has been a certified chartered psychologist, member of the British Psychological Society since 1993. Welcome, David. Over to you.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Ayubowan, right? It's just some of the little greetings I picked up along the way as I've been in Sri Lanka since 2016, traveling in and out. And I really enjoy going to Sri Lanka because I'm an avid scuba diver and I love watching whales. And I think one of the most beautiful things is your nature. And talk about nature. It's a hard time we're facing today, aren't we? Because life is suddenly thrown us all a curveball in terms of just challenges ahead. And that's why we're all here today, to try and understand and make sense of what the world is going to look like. And one of the reasons why I chose this picture where everyone's hands up is it could mean two things. One is I'm giving up. That's the end of me, right? Or B could be, yay, there's something at the end of the tunnel. Or hey, let's make the best of the time that we have together during this, this unpredictable location and situation that we're in, right? What I'd like you to do is sit back, relax, all right? Take this next 30 minutes as I'm going to share with you some of our latest thinking on how do we stay agile and how, but more importantly, as you in your role where you're driving human resource thinking, right? Where you're part of the CXO team, deciding on what we need to do next, because this world is ever changing, right? I want you to sort of sit back, do a bit of your own self-reflection, right? And then at the end of the day, at the end of the session, we'll give you an opportunity to ask a few questions, raise some insights, some suggestions along the way, all right? So it's really about you today, and I would like you to really give yourself that mind space, all right? Don't be distracted. Try not to respond to any emails or any WhatsApp that you may have, unless it's personal emergency or when one of your colleagues comes down with COVID-19, test positive, then definitely, right? But if not, I'd like you to sort of sit back and chill and let's go on this interesting journey ahead, right? So I love this picture, right? Not because I love the ocean, but look at all the different polarities that's happening. Look at all the different things that are happening in just this one picture, right? You've got calm seas, but yet just beyond your reach, you can see something that's just, you can't see beyond that, right? It's opaque, right? It looks like a storm, right? And you can't see what's beyond that. So it could be good, it could be bad, right? We don't know that, but that's one thing, the picture that I like in particular. The other picture is about the person, the surfer, right? And Sri Lanka, I think on the east coast of Sri Lanka, you got beautiful surfing. And I remember that because I go there for kite surfing as well as surfing as well. Surfing, it's all balancing on that board, right? It's about making decisions. Where do I go? What do I need to do? How do I stay on the board, right? Versus falling off, and which direction should I be heading to, right? And that's our world today, right? Like it or not. And the worst part of it is it's not just happening to you. You're not alone. Everybody else is facing that interesting challenge as well, all right? And that's our world today, BAU, right? Business as usual. But today it's morphed to another BAU. Anybody want to hazard a guess what the other BAU may sound like? Just unmute, call it out, give it a shot. Don't wiki it, it's new, right? So you won't find it in wiki. What do y'all think? What's the new BAU? Anyone? Come on, here's your chance to try something, stretch your thinking. What do you think it could be? Come on, let's get some conversations going, or type in chat. What do you think? What do you think is happening? What do you think is the new BAU? Try it. Come on. Go ahead. Do a bit of that reflecting. What do you think is a new BAU? What could that stand for instead of business as usual? Business as unusual. Okay. Gen X, pretty cool. Like that. Right? Disruption seems like we don't, so for me, it's business always unusual, right? Because there's no such thing as usual today, and there's no such thing as it will stabilize. No, it's business always unusual now, right? Yesterday was not the same as today. Right now, in 2 hours, things will change again for us. Okay, and as we all know, we're familiar with this big word called VUCA, V-U-C-A. And that's our world today, right? Like it or not. And so it's about being the surfboard person, being the surfer and deciding, okay, what do I want to do and make the best use of my time, right? How can I move that forward? How can I navigate across what I'm facing right now, right? And it's about choices. It's about choices that you need to make, right? But the most important thing, it's about choices that you need to make that stays within your purpose, right? And that's why we talk about how you need to stay authentic at the same time. Because today we are being stressed all the time. There's noise all over the place, right? And it's really complex. It's not as easy as we thought it would be. You know, look back, you know, how much has changed for you in terms of your life, not just you, but your home life as well, right? So put that into perspective, that you're not alone, A. B, you can overcome this, right? You can overcome this. C, you can stay true to your own personal purpose. Be it as part of the HR team that's driving these changes, be it as part of the CXO team that has to decide on what changes and what decisions we need to make moving forward. And not just a daily decision. It could be trying to plan something long-term. It could be about how do I plan alternative plans, right? And how many of us today, and especially in HR, are we thinking, what's our alternative plan? Do we have a plan B, right? And if you don't have a plan B, then you really need to start thinking about what's stopping me from thinking about a plan B, right? Is it my difficulty in being able to influence the CXO team, right? And that's what Ruki talked about, right? Which is how do we get fit people, fit leaders to move forward. And fit is not just about, right, having the tools and skills, right? But more importantly, it's also having the mindset, right? And having the staying power and resilience to be able to do it. Right? And today we're going to share with you some of our things that we talk about in terms of our research very quickly, right? So the other thing as part of our latest research in the last, I think, 16 months, we talked about the VUCA world has also introduced and brought to the fore, brought to our conscious mind, paradoxes that we need to manage as leaders, like it or not, right? And I'm going to share with you now the 6 paradoxes. So the first one is, I'm sure it's something familiar to you. It's whether do we, you know, right now, are we going fast or do we really need to slow down? Right? When the pandemic hit us, well, it's coming up to 2 years now, right? But at the beginning of 2020, right, everyone was going fast to react, right? Should we maybe have leaned back a little bit and say, hey, maybe let's slow down and think a little bit more before we react, right? And in today's world, you need to do that. Okay. And I like the analogy of the F1 race. So for all you F1 racers there, right? Based on the track, there'll always come a part where everybody has to slow down, right? Where, because it's the bend. So at the bend, what are you doing? You're thinking strategy. You're thinking, okay, look, do I go in, change my tires? Do I top up? Do I refuel? Do I know who's behind me, who's in front? Because you're slowing down. That allows your brain to slow down as well, to put things into perspective. So that's a bend. That's the aim of the bend. So that when you hit that straight stretch, that front stretch, you can speed up and go as fast as you want. Because you already anticipated, you already planned ahead. Right? So for yourself as well, take some time now to reflect. Hey, have I just been going at it? Boom, 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 going so fast. Maybe I really need to slow down. Right? And put things into perspective and understand. Right? And this next 30 minutes is I'm trying to give you that opportunity. Right? Although I'm going fast, I'm also giving you the opportunity to slow down and reflect on where you are today, right? How are you showing up? How are you continuing to create impact and value, right? And staying true to your purpose, right? So slow down, go fast is one of the key paradoxes we found of late, how organizations are reacting during this current situation. The second one is about human tech, high tech and human touch, right? Everyone's working from home now. We're looking at each other right now. We are also one-dimensional. Right? We're sort of saying, oh man, I don't really feel you, right? I can see you, but I don't really feel you. So it's about how do you, again, manage that paradox, right? About human touch and high tech, right? Because some people, as you well know, just love to have that human touch part of it, that close proximity of physical beings. And I know for a fact, Sri Lankans love to go to work because they love to engage with people. They love to be with people, right? And now this whole world has changed for you in some sense. Right, where you're now working from home, and how do I keep engaging my people, right? And that's something, again, later on, I'll sort of give you some ideas in terms of how do you try to maintain authentic with that. But that's also a very critical issue now, which is when this pandemic finishes, will people come back to work? Right? How do you try and get people back to work? Right? Because that's what's happening in the US now. People are saying, no, I don't want to go back to work. You know, the commute takes too long, 2 hours. Forget it. Can I just work from home? I'm more productive that way. Right? How do you manage that paradox, right? In terms of, hey, no, I need you back at work. Hey, what's up with this? You don't trust me? You don't think I'm doing so? It's about managing and balancing that human touch with that part of it, in terms of the high-tech part of it. This is probably the most difficult thing to do, right? Is identifying, should we be axing the fat right now, right? Because business has dropped by 40%. Should I get rid of 20% of my people? Right? You know, because I can't keep them. I can't keep feeding them because we don't have the business. Right? Or the other flip side of it is, are you preserving the correct muscle as well? Right? So it's about axing the fat and preserving the muscle. Right? And this is a tough time for a lot of organizations, and you're not alone in the HR world because they're always asking you, what should we do? Right? Business is not coming in. Revenue is not going to. We're not going to hit our target in this coming quarter. Right? Our operating cost is still high. Right? And everyone's still working from home. We are also still paying for our rented office building. What do we do? Right? So it's about how do you then, again, similarly as the CXO level, sit down with your fellow members and converse this, because that's also a very critical paradox moving forward. Right? The fourth one, it's about digitalization. Everyone's digitalizing. But then where's the money coming from to digitalize? Right? So that's another big challenge. And especially for you in the role of HR, how are you going to encourage? What do we mean by digitalize, right? Is it just introducing a new CRM system? Is it just introducing a new SAP system? Or is it about shifting the entire mindset? And if you're doing the mindset part of it, how is that going to impact the profit in terms of within our business unit? So that's another key paradox that we see organizations and CXO leaders like yourself are facing today, right? The fifth one is an ongoing tussle between giving flexibility and embracing and enhancing control, right? Because everyone's working from home now. How do you know what they're doing, right? How do you know, are you giving them that flexibility, the benefit of the doubt, right? And that feeds into you as a leader as well, in terms of your own perception of trust, right? In terms of how do I give out trust, or does trust need to be earned upfront, right? So think about how you also look at that perspective. Right, in terms of whether if I give out trust, then more likely I'm willing to be able to give you that flexibility, right? But if you have to earn that trust, which is your perspective, the way you look at trust, then obviously you want to have control first, right? Until you've earned it, then I'll slowly let it go, right? So do that reflection for yourself as well. But more importantly, think about your organization, your CEO. How does your CEO view this paradox? Because the way the CEO perceives this paradox will give you insights in terms of how he or she will manage the rest of this coming months ahead, this unknown facet, the ability to stay agile or not, right? Because if all I want to do is control, whereas the agility will not come out, right? So it's about how do you manage this particular paradox, right? And the last one is all about people. How do we display tough love, right? Tough love versus empathize. So that's also, again, something, how it's about how you show up in these conversations, in these virtual conversations. You come across as really being able to connect with them, right? Empathize with them. Or are you always about task, job at hand, why haven't you done this, why haven't you done that? So it's about how you show up in terms of managing that as well. And that's probably, so for me, possibly 5 and 6 are critical for you moving forward in terms of having that conversation with the leaders. And one is a fundamental. Do we need to slow down now, take stock before we start speeding up, right? So what I wanted to do very quickly is do a quick poll. And I think Kenneth is going to launch a poll now. I'm going to ask you to choose 3 of these 6 in terms of which ones are impacting your organization that you're facing today. So here's a poll, all right? So quickly just respond to the poll, pick 3 that impacts you so that the whole group can see whether there's any common challenges, common situations today, right? So go ahead and answer these, submit your response, choose 3. Slow down to go fast, high tech, human touch, X the fat, preserve muscle, right? Wow, okay, right? I'm seeing a few, at least 2 out of 2, those are the 3, okay, great. We're seeing more showing up, fantastic, right? But clearly, we're starting to see empathize and display love as being that's one of the big challenges that we're facing right now. Okay, slow down, go fast. Human touch, fantastic, great. Okay, all right. So while I'm continuing the poll, I'll just move ahead and talk a little bit about the next steps, right? And about how we need to anticipate forward, right? And how we need to move from volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous to something else, right? In terms of anticipating the forward look, right? And so here we're talking about moving and changing the VUCA into the new VUCA, which is a lot more forward-looking, a lot more anticipating, right? Where volatile becomes now vision. Okay, maybe this is what we should be doing now. What's our new purpose? Maybe it's time to slow down, take stock of our purpose, and then move forward, right? So that's a whole bit about vision part of it, right? So uncertain is about, can we make better understanding of what's going on, right? Can we make better understanding of what's going on, right? Complexity, it's about clarity, all right? Let's try and be clear on what we need to be doing and on what we need not to be doing, right? And finally, from ambiguous, it's about translating it to how do we stay agile and how do we become ambitious? What is our ambition moving forward? What do we need to do differently? Let's get hungry again, right? I know some people talked about the idea of VUCA today is also known as tuna, the fish, right? Where tuna, the T is about turbulent, U is still uncertain, N is novel, which is interesting, and then A obviously is about ambiguous. But similarly as well, the novelty comes from the fact that how can I seize the opportunity? It's ambiguous right now. It's gray. It's gray. How can I work in that gray? Right? And that's a key that we want you to start to think about as you move forward. Okay? All right, so this is the poll. So can we share the poll? Dinesh, are you able to share the poll just to let people see? Are you sharing the poll? Yeah, let's just share the results. Okay, there you go. All right. So in this group, right, of about 40 plus of you, this is your world today. All right. And if you look at it, certainly it's got an issue about virtual, about working virtually, working from home, right? High tech versus human touch. That seems to be a key challenge for you, right? Embracing flexibility and control. Everything, and empathize and display tough love, right? These three are things that you as a HR role can impact. So think about what I can do differently as I go back to my workplace. All right. And how can we do differently? It's about really adopting a different perspective now, right? Where it's now about anticipation forward. And that's what we mean by lead agile. And from the CCL research, we talk about any organization being successful, we have to focus on these three things: results, right? Satisfaction, are your people engaged with you? Are they still connected with you, right? And the last but not least, which is even most critical, is learning. Are we learning? Are we continuing to learning? Are we encouraging people to learn? Or is it all about performance, right? Is it all about failing, and picking that out, right? So those are the three things that we need to be focused on, right? For any business to be successful. And now we're throwing in a nice variable, which is how do we stay agile that way? In terms of looking the way we look at results, in the way we create satisfaction within teams, and then in the way we learn, right? And for simplicity's sake, this is all how we define what lead agile looks like. It's mind shift, right? It's really about the way we think now, the way we are looking at things, the way we are perceiving things. It's about shifting our minds, but more importantly, it's about consciously doing. It's about consciously doing it, right? By shifting our minds, then we start to also behave differently. Right? And the keywords here, we all know flexible, right? How many of us are forward thinking? How many of us are looking forward in saying, okay, look, 3 months from now, what do we want to look like, right? 3 months from now, what sort of what sort of leaders do we need to have, right? Now, what would be my role as a HR head for this business in terms of driving the business forward? And the last one is really about capitalizing on change, leveraging this opportunity right now to maybe slow down, think about new strategies for you to be able to go fast, right? And so we talked about the whole idea of the paradoxes, right? So your challenge here is, how do I manage the change from the structure side, right? And that's on the left side, you can see that, right? But more importantly, how do I show up in terms of in the sense of balancing that so that I'm able to be authentic, in terms of managing what's changing in the organization in terms of structure, processes, organization parts of it versus the people part of it. And if you notice on the people part of it, it's all about a sense of transition, a sense of loss, right? A sense of discomfort. What's going on? I'm not sure what's going on. Help me understand what's going on, right? I've lost that human touch. People are just giving me decisions, not ways of moving forward. So think about what we need to be doing differently there from that perspective, right? To manage that. And how do we do it? Recently, we've come up with a new interesting model in terms of how do we shift minds towards being more agile and being more open to new opportunities. Because remember, ambiguity leads to agility and ambition, right? And so think about what we need to be doing differently here, right? And I call it agile because part of our new lead agile model has 4 E's, and this is the first one. Do you know what's going on in your ecosystem right now? Do you know what's happening with your partners? Do you know what's happening with your competitors? Do you know what's happening with your customers, right? And again, just because I'm HR, I don't need to know. You're wrong, because whatever they do is impacting you, because we're talking about interdependencies today. We're all tangled, like it or not. Everything we do or everything they do, there's a reaction on our end. So think about it, right? So that's the first part of it. And why do we need to understand what our ecosystem looks like? It's about navigating, all right? And again, with that foresight. So that's the first E. So think about, am I doing enough of that? Is my CXO team doing enough of that, right? The second part is how do we envision the disruption, right? Scenario planning. Are we doing enough scenario planning today, right? Again, it's all about maybe we need to slow down before we go fast. So let's do a bit of that scenario planning. And what do we do by that? Is beta test, try something new, right? We're not sure what's going on, but let's try it and let's see what the outcome looks like. Do that, make that step forward, take that risk, be courageous. In HR, try that. Maybe we should talk about different ways of working as teams these days in terms of hybrid perhaps, right? So think about what we need to be doing, right? And the focus really is about looking outside, all right? Beyond your organization, look outside. Okay? So embrace and envision. Then the next 2 parts of it, it's about how do we empower action, right? And which is about leading those teams internally. I'm not talking about sending them for Scrum teams, training and everything else, but remember, it's all about shifting mind. All right. Like, yeah, Janet there. So Janet, you're moving around. You probably need to be on mute. There you go. He's moving around, so he's being agile. So, and what do we mean by that? All right. So how do we empower action? Key, accountability, right? Move away from responsibility, make them accountable, get them to buy in the ownership part of it. So it's about, again, mind shifting that mindset, right? And obviously with a certain level of speed, right? But the most important part of it is about yourself, right? How are you raising your own level of consciousness in the way you're looking at things? How are you changing things, right? And it's about how do we learn and then move forward, right? Rather than learn, ruminate, get stuck, and then never move forward, or go back to the same old, because that's my comfort zone. So it's about stretching and getting that out of that, right? So as an organization, take stock and look inside. How is my organization structured today? Am I empowering my team now, especially virtually, by making them more accountable, right? Am I looking at the way I'm looking at myself in terms of, am I learning new things? Am I bouncing back? Am I moving forward very quickly? All right. Because that's the future game, like it or not. Right? It's about interdependencies today. Right? And how do we apply these 4 C's into our existing world in the way we interact and engage with each other? Right? And it's that capital We. It's not just about the CEO anymore. It's not just about the CFO or the head of sales anymore. Right? It's you as well as part of the CXO team in the HR role. To say what else can we do collectively and interdependently, right, to drive this business forward, to succeed and sustain it, and to remain agile and be ambitious to move forward, right? So that's really critical, right? And the one I want to really talk about is really about how do we enable in terms of how we talk to each other, because that stems with about how we stay authentic, right? It's about how we talk to each other. And our world talks about you starting off from where you are in terms of how comfortable are you with change? How comfortable are you with change? right? And this is a sort of a quick self-assessment for yourself, and we use that very regularly when we're talking about how do people stay agile. Is that generally you have three types of, you have three preferences towards change. You're either a conserver, where you like change in small steps, or you're pragmatic, you like to explore the new things, but it's much more functional change. All right, if we need to redesign the structure, let's combine sales and marketing, for example. Let's create A teams to target one customer, for example, right? And all the originator, which is, hey, let's keep changing, right? And so think about where you are right now, whether you're more of a conserver, a pragmatist, or an originator, because that will reflect how you show up and whether you're willing to let go in terms of how much do you want to get engaged in staying agile with your world and your people, right? And so for me and for us at CCL, it's about training that balance and sometimes having to let go, because if you don't let go, then you start to, your authentic self doesn't start to show up, right? And our research tells us we've got a really nice authentic wheel that I'm just going to quickly flash up here. There's no real time to go into detail, right? But just know that it's again about balancing your own individual paradoxes, right? So let's take self-reliance, for example, right? The other end of self-reliance is about trusting others, right? So let's talk about letting go, right? So if you don't really trust that they can do it, and you're always self-relying on yourself, sooner or later, right, that's going to impact the way you show up, the way you communicate with your people, right? People are going to be saying, oh, no, she's just giving me this few things to do, but she doesn't really trust me, and she's not authentic in her message, right? So think about how you need to be able to then focus on what's most important to you, but at the same time, what you know you need to start letting go now to remain agile, right? And as you remain agile, you start to create a brand new self in terms of your authentic self, and people have to see, oh yeah, David's flexing his time now. He's more willing to give up stuff now, right? And for example, then also similarly as well, being tough versus realistic patience, right? Some of us we just love giving tough love, but now I need to also soften it because it's creating negative impact on the other person. So it's about creating that awareness and managing and doing that balance, right? So think about where you are today, right? If you want to take a quick snapshot, go ahead. But that's again about you as an individual and how you react to change. So if I'm a conserver, right, where I like bits of pieces of changes, obviously I'm going to still be a lot more reliant on myself, right? So you see how that impacts the way you are able to give up stuff, right? So moving quickly along, just to finish it off, right? We talk about CCL has a really nice framework based on our over 50 years of research that talks about 4 fundamentals that we need to enable us to stay resilient first, and how we show up in terms of being authentic. The first one is self-awareness, and I cannot overstate that, right? Do you know your blind spots? Do you know what your hidden strengths are, right? Part of that leads to learning agility. How open are you to learning new things, new ideas, all right? Then it's about how do you interact and engage with people. And Ruki talked about the idea you could be the best HR person, but if you're not able to influence upwards to your CEO, nothing will get done. So it's about how you need to influence things differently, because that will feed into your ability to stay focused, right? And finally, communication. Can't overstate that. And everybody knows that's the importance of communication. It's about feedback and about listening. Right? And we do have this 4 fundamentals in a program that we call Lead for Success that I think Ruki was going to mention up front as well. Right? So without further ado, I think what I wanted to do as a last takeaway is take a look at these images. All right. Okay. And what I want you to do is pick an image to remind you to stay authentic to your purpose. Right. So go ahead. Zoom in, take your camera, zoom in on one of those pictures, take a picture, all right, that tells you how I need to stay authentic, and then go ahead and do it. Okay, so I'll give you about another minute to pick pictures and find one that speaks to you, that whenever you look, and make sure that picture is, you've taken it on your handphone so that you can look at it, revisit it, maybe put it as your handphone wallpaper to remind you to be authentic to your purpose. Okay, let's 1 more minute. All right, well, we're letting other people, still take, decide on which picture. If you have any questions for me, please go into chat and then key in the questions, and I'll try and take about 2 or 3 questions, right? So if you have any questions, please go ahead and put it into chat. This is the end of my presentation, in case you're wondering. Questions, anyone? Or you're still looking at the pictures? No worries, we still probably, I think, Ruki, we have about, what, 5 minutes? Yeah, so I'll just wait. Yeah, take any questions if anybody has any comments, just thoughts as well, perspectives, please feel free to share them. Kumudini, you asked an interesting question. Disruption and diversity. Do you mind saying more when you say diversity? The lack of, or there's too much? Did you unmute, Kumudini?
Yeah. No, because when you look at this VUCA principle, some people are saying now we need to add, 2 Ds, D, VUCA, D, right? And
Yes.
then when we ask these 2 Ds, what they're saying is 1 D is disruption, the other D is actually diversity, right? When we say diversity, of course, like it is any form of diversity, right? Because it could be gender, it could be, other ethnic groups, it could be any orientation, so some people are saying that, it should be now D, VUCA, D. So I just want to understand what are your thoughts around that?
Well, to be fair, the disruption part is a consequence of VUCA, right? So, and if you notice, in one of our models, in the agile model, we talk about envision the disruption. So absolutely, right? Whenever there's VUCA, there's disruption. It disrupts our normal daily life. It disrupts the way we think, right? So that for me is parcel of what VUCA is. The interesting thing about diversity is, it's always been around, if you think about it. People have brought it to the conscience, right? And now today, especially in the world where we talk about VUCA and the unknown, the idea of diversity is core to the idea of different perspectives. Bring in different colliding perspectives, different points of view. Because if you don't have a diverse enough group of people around you, you will start to think the same, do the same, act the same, behave the same, right? And so the diversity part becomes very, very critical, right? And so in the CCL world, right, we talk about having 5 boundaries within an organization, right? And the first boundary is about the vertical boundary, which is our standard reporting structure. We have a boss, everybody else, and so on. So is there diversity there? Maybe up to a point, right? But is there diversity of voice? Maybe, if people are allowed at the bottom of your organization to voice their concerns, their challenges, then there will be some diversity. The other boundary we talked about is the horizontal, which is across different functions, different business units. And again, it's about diversity of perspectives, right? And so if you don't always include people from the other business units, the other, and so forth, or the other functions, then you really won't have a diversity of thought, especially in today's world where we need to be agile, which means we need to be open to different perspectives. We need to embrace, right, the ecosystem. That means understand how each system or each unit in our organization helps each other in an interdependent way, right? So that's the second boundary we talk about. The other 2 are very critical, and that's what we see a lot of people happening today: demographic, right, gender, right, the other gender, race, age groups, millennials versus the current group, current business leaders, for example. Very, very important, because they bring different perspectives and they bring a different voice, right? And so that's the other boundary that we talk about in terms of raising diversity. The fourth one is geographic, right? If you're only within Sri Lanka, why? Why not find out what's happening with your other customers outside of Sri Lanka? Then again, you're getting a diversity of voice, right? And the final one is stakeholders, right? Are you talking to your vendors upstream, right? Are you talking to your customers downstream? Are you talking to your business partners? So absolutely right. Kumudini, diversity is even more critical now because in times of stress, we all revert to our comfort zone, right? And when we go back to our comfort zone, is what we do well, right? Who we are closest to. We will just listen to their voices, right? But instead, in today's world, we're asking you not to do that, but instead to step forward, lean in, and ask people and take different perspectives from different diverse groups of people within your organization and outside your organization as well. All right, so thank you for raising that. Very good, thank you. I hope I answered that question, although...
Yes, thank you so much, thank you.
Dulani, what are best ways to collaborate people, particularly when you are, let me just scroll that down, working virtually? Well, what do you think? Let's have some sharing. So what's your challenge, Dulani?
Hi, the biggest issue is particularly when you have different demographics of people, particularly blue collar, white collar together. And when you're supposed to work, collaborate with people virtually, I think the biggest challenge is to collaborate with them digitally. That's one of the biggest challenges we are facing right now. I'm from the retail industry, so
okay.
We have, baby boomers to Gen X to Gen Zs working together. So that's one of the biggest challenges we are facing in terms of collaboration and engagement.
It's a good one. It's never easy, right? And this falls under, for me, in terms of, is a combination of all the 4 E's actually, in terms of embrace, envision, empower, and enable your new partners.
Yeah, we are using lots of different platforms right now, but still, it's. I'm sure all the other companies are facing the same.
Absolutely, yeah. And so the key thing is about how you connect with these people, right? And we talk about how do we then, because remember, I introduced the idea of diversity through organization boundaries, right? And in your case, it's a demographic. You got blue collar, white collar, you got the Gen X, you got the millennials, and so forth, right? One way of bringing them together, and you can do this virtually, even not using MS Teams or Zoom that we're in, right? Is start helping them to understand.
From that, we are also using like WhatsApp, Telegram, or all those platforms as well.
Fantastic. Yeah. So one way you can do it very quickly is what we call, forging common ground in your teams, right? To keep them engaged and connected. And one way of forging common grounds is, like I said, is get different diverse groups of, let's say, your millennial Gen X's together, right? And talk about what their world is like right now, right? What their world is like right now, and what's stopping them from being successful in their current roles in your organization, be it either blue collar or white collar. It's about getting them to share that knowledge, share their insights, share their frustrations, right? And also what's working well for me, right? So by doing that sharing, you start to create that, we call it that connectedness part of it, right? You start to understand each other's world better. So that then they will say, okay, how do we forge common ground? Is how can we work better together then, right? Even though virtually, but how can we work better together to stay connected, to still achieve our overall goal, for example, right? So that stems from the CCL's research on boundary spanning leadership, right? Which is something that we have in the form of a tool, and we have a book as well that we did. And this book was researched out of Singapore and Asia, and talked about how do organizations learn to co-collaborate, learn to become more interdependent, right, across the different boundaries within their organization, right? So that they're able to raise a more diverse point of view, they're able to think up of the innovation will also happen. Because as you bring these different groups together and they understand each other's worlds, right, little bright sparks will start. Then eventually they'll be thinking about what's forward looking for us? What would our new organization look like down the road? So that's one way you can do that, Delani, and that's really about creating that common ground by bringing them together and sharing their own worlds and what's working for them, what's not working for them, and then from there, sparks will fly to talk about that. How can we communally come together to work together to achieve communal success, interdependent success, right? So I hope I sort of gave you a quick hint on what you could try and do almost immediately.
Sure, thank you.
I got two more messages. You got one thing. Okay. All right. So that's the other. Okay. So those were the only two major questions. So Ruki, over to you. Thank you, everybody. I hope you found it interesting. I know I was going fast, but I'm hoping that you were going slow to understand the points. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, David. Thanks, Anya. Thanks, Diana, for helping us to do this. Everybody, this is the end of the first step of our journey. Thanks for committing time and then being with us for 1 hour and 14 minutes. And maybe some of your colleagues may have not been able to log in because that we had some unknown, unexplainable technical issue. One of the speakers could not join in as well. And then there are loads of calls that I got. Million apologies if I have not been able to accommodate your colleagues. The recording of this session would be available tomorrow, and then we will be sending you the link. We will be sending you the PDF of David's presentation, and at the same time you will receive a gift from CCL. It is particularly on the agility. There's a white paper that we want to share with you, so that from us we will be sharing 3 documents with you: the white paper, David's presentation, and in the same time in CCL insights about HR industry. There is a very interesting report, so we will be sharing all those 3 documents with you. So thank you very much for coming again, and then if you want to hang around, we have a interesting what we call speed networking session. So we will, because some of you industry colleagues you may have not met for some time, and it might be an opportunity for you to meet some of them, so that we are going to put you into 6 breakout rooms for 4 minutes and then bring you back. And but when it comes to, I'll hand over back to, so that is after Dulani. So from my message, what I want to say is that the 3 documents that you can expect, and in case if one of your colleagues has not been able to log in, so on behalf of 361, million apologies, we will be sharing the link with you. Over to you, Dulani.
Thank you, Ruki. So not very much lost. We will definitely send you the recording as Ruki said, so you can share it. Thank you, David, for that wonderful and interactive presentation. I'm sure our audiences found that very, very useful, as well as thank you for also taking the questions. So I would like to just say, with great collaborations and partnerships, there can only be output infused with great quality and value. So I'd like to take this opportunity to wish 361 Degrees and CCL all the success in their new partnership, which will no doubt transform people, organizations, and communities in Sri Lanka. So the formal part of this program kickoff is over, and now we move you into the networking session. We are hoping to have 2 rounds of breakout rooms with 4 people in each room for about 3 minutes perhaps. So get ready for your first round of networking.